as you all opened up and shared a little bit about kind of where you're at now, there seems to be an element for all of us of like going through a bit of this journey and kind of exploring some of this and maybe reaching a point of like revelation or something. I'm curious, like, would any of you love to share a little bit about maybe how this led you to where you're at today in a little bit more detail? Like, how did you cop on to the fact that this way of like thinking about how we operate really is not serving us well?
I don't know if I've always had this. I mean, this thought of sustainability and holistic type of leadership. I think part of it is the culture in the organization you put it, you work in, and a lot of it, at least in the United States, is extremely profit driven, extremely margins, extreme on productivity. I think in the last year, if nothing else, it has brought to light that there's only so much money you can make. I mean, just in the last year, they were saying the top 1% made as much money as the government gave back in terms of $1.9 trillion just in a year. So I think the point now is we're sitting at kind of a balance point where the lower 10-15% literally is on food lines, and the top 15 are going on mega cruises. But I think there is also from that top tier in the corporation world that they have to do more than just make profits, and that's where the so-called holistic challenge and at some point you keep on taking from the bottom. You have no customers and you have no employees. You could be only so efficient. So I think from my perspective, the change is how do I personally affect that change in terms of implementing certain things that look past the four goals that I've always done in my world. Give me higher margins, give me more customers, and so forth. So I think now it's like, where do you get your customers, and is your pricing right, and is the pricing and the product for all or just for select few? So I think that's where at this point it's the right time for me to take a look at it and kind of revert the style or expand the way they look at management and employees and so forth.
Yeah. And from my perspective, I think there's, I've worked in the corporate world for most of my life, and how that shows up, it gives you an enormous amount of opportunity to achieve whatever you want. You're surrounded by resources. And I joined a company that I really was, very aligned with my personal values. But then you have this underlying culture that is the real culture, Ronan, like you were saying, the behavioral, the culture is kind of what manifests from the collective behaviors in the organization. And those behaviors still are driven by the performance obligations, which are going to be revenue or outcomes or promotions or whatever that, that entire system is built on. And so it just became very apparent to me that it felt just very inorganic for me. It just didn't align with me anymore. And I would have always been somebody who said I was a capitalist hippie. I believe that we can all get along while we're making money. But it became less important to me after a while. And I just thought, people were very close to burning out. A lot of them don't see it. They can't see it coming. So in 2017, I took a short sabbatical from work, about 12 weeks off, because I was missing my creativity. I just could notice it was just not there. I'd come home and I had just had nothing to give in terms of simple things, gardening, doing stuff with the house. And I thought, God, I don't like, creativity is important to me. It's part of my identity and I need to protect it. And that was my first sign that, if it's gone, we need to go and recharge. And as I was explaining to people I was going to take this sabbatical, the answer I kept getting back was, oh, wow, isn't that amazing that you can see that you're burning out? And I was like, wow, if that's everybody else's response, then we potentially have an epidemic because you can't recognize when you're running low on energy. It's like continuing to drive your car with, with the warning light flashing and going, it'll be fine. You don't run your car on low petrol. You don't run it with, the pressure wrong in the tires, but we continue to do it in our personal lives. So, yeah, I think that was one of the realizations that's led me to kind of go, something's not right here.
Yeah, that resonates a lot with me, Joanne. I mean, obviously I spent a really long time with Amazon, and I took a 3-month sabbatical, and it was kind of one of those same sort of things. I think kind of like Wei described it was something that was there probably with me for a long time, but over time it really built up. And as you engage in that corporate kind of endeavor, there's Antoinette said something the other day. I'm probably going to get the quote wrong, Antoinette, but it was something to the extent of organizations are almost like a container that limits how much you can grow as an individual, and it's kind of designed that way. And I began to really see that, feel that myself. And yeah, it was, not having the time for myself, not being present with my partner, realizing that while I'm making a lot of money, I'm spending most of it to make myself feel better about the fact that I'm miserable. Like, it was kind of like, this doesn't add up.